because it is quantum physics which is making all those ancient claims of spirituality, God, and what have you, all those claims being rediscovered by science. Without the quantum background, without the quantum context, we would never make these scientific ideas that we can verify in the scientific laboratory with scientific theory.
Welcome to Science and Spirituality. Today we continue our conversation with Dr. Amit Goswami, a former physics professor of the University of Oregon, USA. He is the author of 12 books, among them The Self-Aware Universe and Physics of the Soul. He gained international recognition by appearing in the popular 2004 documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? Quantum physics applied to subtle phenomena gives a new dimension to specialized sciences such as biology or medicine. This is because quantum theory allows for non-locality and discontinuity, which otherwise cannot be explained within material sciences. The underlying quantum approach is based on the assumption that the world consists of waves of possibilities or quantum wave functions, from which universal consciousness chooses one particular outcome. The very act of observation by a sentient being causes the collapse of the wave function into actual material events. Thus, all sentient beings participate in this world as subject observers, bringing the universe into being. This can also happen retroactively, even back to the time of the origin of the universe, as pointed out by the late Dr. John Wheeler. According to Dr. Goswami, the human brain is an embodiment of universal consciousness where the collapse of objective waves of possibilities take place. There originates the split between observed objects and an observer, constituting our experience of observation. As a result, we identify with our physical brain and our memories. These are sources not only of our awareness, but also feelings of separation from the outer environment. Let us now continue our interview with Dr. Goswami on this brain-consciousness relationship. I get the impression that in many situations the brain was used as a vehicle for consciousness. That's what caused this collapse. But there must be something that tells us where to collapse to.
Yes, this is a very, very good question. Correctly addressing this question is the crucial point that one has to delve into in order to understand what is special about living, what is special about objects with a brain, that they can become subjects. Life comes fundamentally with what we call sentience, the idea that there is a life separate from the environment. So what makes life special enables life to collapse quantum wave function. One comes to the conclusion that there is a circularity in all this, because it is a fact that observer is needed to collapse the wave function, but before the collapse, observer is a conglomerate of waves of possibilities.
It's like chicken and egg.
Chicken and egg question, right? So who gets to be the first? I mean, answer is neither. So in this way, we begin to understand our self-reference. What Doug Hofstadter, the artificial intelligence researcher originally, what he was able to argue is that a identification with such a system takes place. For example, take the sentence, I am a liar. If I am lying, then I'm telling the truth, then I'm lying, then I'm telling the truth. You get caught in that infinite oscillation of I'm lying, I'm telling the truth. Once you get caught, you cannot escape.
What's the significance in this entanglement?
So the significance is that if we are then caught in the quantum measurement in the brain, we cannot get out of it. We become identified with the brain. So consciousness in this way is entrapped, embodied. Yes. And this is the idea we are looking for when you said that unity consciousness in some way is represented in the brain.
So are you saying that this circular kind of entanglement
in the circularity
produces some kind of experience?
Yeah, circularity, therefore self-reference, the ability of looking at ourselves separate from the environment. And this is, of course, an appearance only. Ultimately, there is no division.
Is universal consciousness related to the idea of God that one could specify according to Eastern scriptures and beliefs?
One would be tempted to call it God. The way to think of is not in a physical way. Like in the olden days, we pictured God as a mighty emperor sitting in outer space. Now we think of our higher consciousness.
Let's meditate on God for a moment. We will continue our conversation with our guest Dr. Amit Goswami right after these messages. You are watching Science and Spirituality. Welcome back to Science and Spirituality. Last week on our program, Dr. Goswami discussed the biological manifestation of non-local consciousness, which is not only reflected in our mind's functioning, but also in vital body functions realized through non-physical morphogenetic fields. Morphogenetic fields are essential in cell differentiation in complex organisms in order to obtain various body organs. But what happens to these non-material individual mental and vital blueprints of existence after we pass on from this physical world?
The very idea that the world is possibility, not actual events, makes us think, why should possibilities die with our death?
That's right.
Of course, the material possibilities, we know that they died, and therefore the material part of the memories dies with our physical body. Our brain also dies. Consciousness is no longer collapsing wave of possibility in this confluence that we called ourselves. There is no way that quantum physics can help us there. But with the recognition that our meaning processing happens in the non-physical mind, and the blueprints of the body organs come from non-physical morphogenetic fields, immediately makes us think non-physical bodies don't have to die. But what survives? We try to understand the individuality that we have for our mind and for our vital. They are not like the individuality we have as our physical bodies. There we have structure. But the individuality of the vital and the mental, because vital and mental are infinite bodies, there is no structure, no macro division. We just use a part of the mental. We just use a part of the vital. And therein lies our individuality, the special way that we use mental functions, the special way that we use vital functions. That suggests that each of us have a pattern of conditioning. It is this pattern of conditioning which, the way it is captured, that is vital. So if we recognize that these habit patterns that we develop are ultimately due to the fact that our quantum equation of movement has changed from the unconditioned quantum to a conditioned quantum, this recognition immediately helps us to recognize that we are talking about a different kind of memory. This is not a memory that is written in the brain. It's not a memory that is memorized in anything local. But it is a memory that is non-locally memorized in the form of equations of motion, which is what ancients called Akashic memory, memory written outside of space and time.
So we're talking about reincarnation.
We're talking about reincarnation. Science can prove reincarnation, especially quantum physics thinking, the way that we are applying it to the workings of the subtle bodies. Once we accept this, something radically changed in our society that we need can happen. We no longer have to be afraid of death, because what is death but a prolonged sleep, after which we get a new physical body, but we do not give up the propensities that we develop.
But what is quantum evidence for reincarnation?
Non-locality of these memories, past life memories, is a well-known phenomenon. The theory behind this is that we are non-locally connected, and this non-local connection creates memories in a state of our mind when we are very non-ego state. Such non-ego states occur when you are dying and when we are being born. So such memories of reincarnational past will be contained only in the childhood memories.
Can you say something about the experiences during death that people have? Do they have any meaning of quantum physics to you?
People have experiences of all their lifetimes, not only this life, but all their past lives. How do we know this? Because some people, by the marvel of modern medicine, have been brought back after near-death experience. They had such panoramic experiences, such opening of the non-local window, so to speak. And that's a quantum thing, because non-locality is impossible outside of quantum physics.
What can we do with this knowledge?
This is the most important question for us to address. I often say that, look, scientific evidence for God is already here. That's given, because so much evidence now exists on so many diverse phenomena in psychology, in biology, in medicine, and physics, of course, has quantum measurement. So we can rest that question aside. God is already proven scientifically, both theory and experiment, because non-locality and discontinuity cannot be explained through material interactions. So we have God established. We have downward causation. We have the subtle bodies. What do we do with this knowledge is the utmost important question.
Maybe you could say what is needed as advice to others in order to get that kind of merge of science and spirituality. Do they have to study quantum equations and quantum physics, or maybe you can offer some shortcut?
The basic quantum idea is that the world is possibility, not determined. In other words, the world is not determined. That means we have freedom to choose among the possibilities. So the basic idea for a quantum activist is to wake up to the fact that we have freedom of choice, and the only thing we have to learn is how to access the place where we have freedom of choice, that subtle, non-ordinary state of consciousness in which we have freedom of choice. And then just systematically start the process which takes us, call it yoga, call it spiritual work, whatever name you call it, it doesn't matter. Call it religion. It came from the same word, reconnect. How do we reconnect to the source of our causal power to make transformation of our character?
Okay, but that requires connection to this universal consciousness.
Yes. And that is why we have to learn
how to do that.
Practice. That is where meditation comes in. But it's not just looking at how the spiritual people do it. Time has come for us to recognize that the people who we call creative among us, they also routinely get into the God consciousness, because anytime you are creative outside of your conditioned domain of experience, you are touching God consciousness. So by studying the life of creative people, we can also learn a lot. I always emphasize that we have to develop a relaxed way of living. It's a combination of do and be. This being aspect, we neglect it in this busy life. When we do alternative doing and being, what happens is we are connected with the ego, which we always are when we do, but we are also connected potentially to the being, which sometimes falls into the God consciousness automatically. So in this way we can participate in a dance between God and the ego, from where creativity takes place.
So it is basically open avenue for everybody.
Only caveat which every creative person knows is that we must not be too fixated to our belief systems. If we only stop our attachment to the belief system, then we take them or live them as the situation demands. Then we can be creative.
We sincerely thank you, Dr. Amit Goswami, for your valuable time and superb insight as to how quantum physics can explain fundamental concepts in spiritual thinking. Your work has definitely done much to connect both science and spirituality. Thank you for joining us today for our program, and now please stay tuned for words of wisdom right after noteworthy news. Best wishes and the quantum way of living possibilities. We'll see you next time.